Nitro got that fire, boy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Nitro NHL podcast. Today, we're going to look at the Western Conference. We're going to go over the Central and Pacific Division. We're going to give our rankings. We're going to kind of break down the teams a bit. And so Mitch, is there anything that you want to kind of lead us off with? How do you feel about the Western Conference overall as like a conference versus the East? And
so I think we should just dive right into it. So I think, these ones are a little closer than the East. I think the East were a little easy to predict. I don't know if we're just the fans of the teams and that's why. But I think we're going to start with the Central and then we're going to go to the Pacific.
All right.
So you can let me know if you disagree with any of these teams. We can move them around together. But for me, number one, I think we have to go with the reigning Stanley Cup champions with the Avalanche. They lost some decent players, right, with Kadri and all that, but I still think they're very strong. Their defense is outstanding. Their biggest question mark right now is now goaltending.
Yep, they lost Darcy to the Capitals, and now
and they picked up Georgiev, right?
And I'm pretty sure that they said like we didn't pay Georgiev I think it was like 3.5 million to come in and be a backup. Like he's like presumably the like 1A to Francouz's 1B. So we'll see how that all works. But
he didn't have a great season last year, but I think honestly with the defense Colorado has and their play style, I think he could actually be really set up for success for that team. And just because of the reigning champions, they played so well, they dominated most of the teams. I think we have to leave them at number one.
Yeah.
You agree?
I agree with that for sure.
See, as we get further down in this, in both divisions, honestly, it kind of gets harder to kind of mismatch. And for number two, I actually have the St. Louis Blues. I really like their team. They gave Colorado their hardest matchup in the playoffs, right? And their depth is really good. I like their forwards. Their goaltending can be spotty. Binnington can be inconsistent, but with Thomas, Buchnevich, Tarasenko, Kyrou, all those guys, I think they're just going to continue to grow, right? And so I have the St. Louis. What do you think?
I don't mind St. Louis there too. I feel like in this division, it kind of gets murkier. Like in this 3 spot and onward, there's a couple like debates, but I feel like 1 and 2 it's pretty set in this division, in my opinion. I feel like these two are the teams, but there always is surprises. So we never know. Maybe St. Louis gets upset by one of these lower teams, but I feel pretty confident in the 1-2 being Colorado, St. Louis.
Yeah, I think they're, again, it's kind of the same with Colorado. I think their biggest question mark almost is goaltending, because Binnington didn't play great last year. He started to pick it up at the end, but they had Husso to lean on, but obviously he got traded to Detroit. So it's iffy, but I'm fairly confident with the 1-2. I do think they are the best 2 teams in the division.
Yeah.
Possibly the best 2 teams in the West.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got Colorado and St. Louis 1 and 2, and then this third one might be a little bit of a shocker to some people. I don't know, but I'm actually really high on them. I like the Nashville Predators at 3. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
It all depends on. I think Johansson and Duchesne are one of their biggest reasons for success last year, and if they're just inconsistent like they have been in their career, you could see them take a dip again. But Duchesne had a great year, over 40 goals. Johansson bounced back. Like they were a legit first line team with Forsberg, Johansson, Duchesne. They were actually a really good line.
And then they also got they added Nino Niederreiter. Like that's a good pickup. Phil Tomasino is also another good player. Tanner Jeannot. Like they got for once they got youth in Nashville. It feels like they never have these like young players, besides like Philip Forsberg. But yeah, no. I don't mind the take. It's gonna be a big like dependent on like how these other teams below perform, but I feel like you're right in that they have Saros, who's gonna be a guy that they can lean on, which these teams below, they don't really have a guy like that. So
see, I think my biggest thing that I like with Nashville is I actually really like their depth. Like you said, with the Niederreiter, they stole him at like $4 million for 2 years. Jeannot was really good last year. And then, like you said, Philip Tomasino is that youth. He could come in and play really well. And I do love their defense because they got Ryan McDonough from Tampa. I think he only has a couple good years left in him, but he's still a good defenseman, and he's playing with Ekholm. That could be a real shutdown pair for them.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
And then you got Yossi projected to be paired with Fabro. That's another good pair. And then their top six lines okay with Lawson and Carrier, but I like Nashville. I think Saros could be like, obviously he's not as good, but I think it could be kind of like a similar situation where if they're having a couple bad games, he can pull them out like Shesterkin does, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he's top 3, top 5 best goalies in the league. So I'm actually really high on Nashville.
Yeah, you're high on Saros too. You like him,
love Saros. He's a good. They would have lost in 5 or 6, but I think if they had Saros, they don't get swept last year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's our third team. And this is where people might be surprised where I have Minnesota at 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know how the wild cards are going to go because the Pacific's pretty, like I wouldn't say they're deep, but they have like middling teams.
Mm-hmm. That like you never know.
You never know what
I mean. You never know which ones pop off. So yeah.
All right. And for number 4 in the Central, I actually have the Minnesota Wild. This might be a surprising take to some people, but I'm not as high up as I was on them last year. I thought they were a good team last year, but they had a big loss in Kevin Fiala, and I think other teams around them got better. This is where it gets tight, right? Because I think the Pacific, they have like teams that are like it's more competitive than say other divisions where honestly any team can make it in that division other than the bottom 2. So I could honestly see Minnesota even maybe missing the playoffs. They have a very big cap penalty with their buyouts, right? And yeah, I'm just not as big on Minnesota. What are you thinking on this take?
Yeah, like you said, the loss of Fiala just really, really does hurt. And then you just look at their lineup, and it's like you said, the X factors have to be the young guys in Boldy and Rossi. They have to step up, and the defense is just a big question mark with their bottom pair. Like there's Goligoski, there's Kulikov, there's Middleton, like whichever one they go with. Their top 3 defensemen aren't that bad, but it's just overall the depth is a little bit lacking. And the loss of Fiala, that's a lot of offense being gone. You're relying on some more down roster guys and young guys to step up, but Kirill's an X factor, so we'll see if he can do it for the team. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
We will have to see.
It's going to be tough with that Pacific Division, like we were saying.
Yeah. And Fleury, I think he has to be consistent. So I don't know if they're rolling in with Philip Gustafsson as their backup with that trade from the Senators.
Yep.
He's been kind of inconsistent in his career, so it just depends on how much of the load Fleury can take. If Gustafsson plays well, can be a good 1B kind of thing. So I think they are lower than they were last year.
Yeah.
So for number 5, I actually have the Dallas Stars.
Yep.
They played a great series last year against the Oilers. Ottinger was outstanding. One of the best playoff performances by a goalie we've seen in a long time.
In a loss as well, which is
and they still couldn't get it done. But it's also impressive because they were playing the Oilers, right?
That's what I'm saying.
They had Draisaitl,
one of the most offensive teams in the league.
The only thing is, like, his regular season numbers were okay. I don't know what he went through in the playoffs, but he just turned up to another level, right? So if he could be that caliber of goalie, you never know. They could be higher, right? They could be 4, they could be 3, but I don't love their forward core as much anymore. They're aging, and they lost Klingberg, right? So like,
Klingberg is a huge loss.
I think they will be competitive, right? But I don't think they're going to be in the upper echelon of teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like players like young players like Jason Robertson on the roster, but it's now it's becoming, you lose Klingberg and you look at the teams that are ahead of you and they're all improving while you marginally got a little bit worse as well. So we'll see. But like you said, if Ottinger plays like playoff Ottinger, he can steal them games, and then they could be that 4th team ahead of Minnesota, or that 3rd team if he's really that good. Like it's a lot more of you're asking yourself questions versus the other 2 teams. So that's why I feel like 5 is like a good spot. There's still a good roster, but you're just not as sure about what you're going to get. So
Yeah, and then so I think Dallas is a good slot at 5 and 6. I have actually the Winnipeg Jets, and this also might be a surprising one because people were expecting them to make the playoffs last year, and they just fell completely short.
Yep.
I don't know if it's like locker room issues with them, but like Wheeler and Scheifele, they're horrendous at defense. They didn't really get it together with their new coach. Who did they sign? They signed Rick Bowness.
Rick Bonus.
I don't like that at
It was
all.
that was a questionable one.
Right. So, but they still do have Hellebuck, right? So they could go for it a little bit, but I just think the teams above them are better.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Connor could show up all year too. That would be good for them.
Pierre-Luc Dubois, they need him.
Yeah, he's probably because he signed a 1-year deal, so he's probably going to try to go crazy and get his big contract. And who is their young guy? His name's Cole, I think something.
Yeah, Cole Perfetti.
Perfetti, if he has a good year, could prove me wrong. You never know, but
yep.
I don't think. I just don't think they're that great of a team, especially defensively. But here's to hoping they could get their Stanley Cup, as in beating the Leafs this year, right?
And like you said though, it's really about the just those guys need to step up, and then if those guys do step up and you see them make a deadline move for another defenseman or for another player who can provide some offense, they got the goalie. Like they're one of those weird teams where right now it doesn't feel like this roster that's put together is a playoff team, but some of these guys that we're rating as we are going into the season could change our minds if Scheifele puts together a more what we're used to almost season from himself, and then Pierre-Luc Dubois takes that step, then they make some moves, then maybe we're ranking them higher. But we're as currently constructed, I think 6 below Dallas is a good spot for them. I don't really have any argument.
I think their biggest flaws are obviously like the defense I said, and I don't believe in their coaching whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't think with like Rick Bonuses, I don't think they can play like the similar style that made Dallas somewhat successful last year, right? So so for that reason I have them 6. I don't know, grill us in the comments if you want to. I'm just not as high on the Jets as in prior years. So this could be more intense than the battle for 1 and 2 and 3 in the division, right? It's the battle for last in the Central.
Yeah.
It's the Connor Bedard tank season, right?
This is the most interesting.
This could get intense.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think I'm having the Coyotes at 7. Even though, because the Blackhawks have quote unquote more star power with Kane and stuff, I just think the rest of the team and the morale of the team, like they are in shambles, right? I think the Coyotes are on the up and up. Who knows with this 5,000 seat arena, it could give them a boost. It could give them something to play for.
Yep.
You never know. I think they were like after the deadline, like they weren't great, but they're okay at the later part of the season. So I think they are going to be a better team. They're going to have some young guys in the lineup, right? It's really a toss up between these two. This is just a pure guess, but I just think based on like the locker room in Chicago and how disgruntled the veterans are and how Patrick Kane wants out, Taves wants out, right? They have Peter Mrazek as a goalie.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really a toss up between these two, but I think Dallas. It's not Dallas. I think Chicago will be last place.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that maybe Chicago isn't last place if it takes them to the deadline to move Kane and Taves. But is Taves gonna play for them, or is he just gonna like sit out? Because I know he's planning to come back, but does he not want to play for Chicago? Like
I can't see Taves sitting out.
That's what I mean. So if they have those guys for like, they might win a couple more games up until the deadline before they move those guys.
That's true.
But if they trade those guys, kind of like 20, 30 games in, then they're like, I think like you said, how are guys in the locker room going to feel when Jonathan Taves, like the captain's captain and, Patrick Kane, just a mega superstar, like the franchise is essentially quitting on the season. So morale is going to be at an all-time low, where Arizona, I mean, it's not like they got much to play for, but 5,000 seat arena, like it's going to feel like more of a community almost. So I kind of agree with that take. So I don't mind 7 Arizona and then 8 Chicago. I think that's probably how it plays out.
And it's also just because, right, like they were a bottom 10 team last year, right? And then they also just lost 2 pieces of their first line.
Yeah, like the chemistry overall on that roster is shook. They lost Kirby Dodge to Brinkat, Dylan Strome. Like, oh my gosh. Like,
and then probably some other depth pieces. And then they
so,
added like depth forwards, right?
Yeah. So pretty well, like, they even traded Hagel at the deadline last year. So pretty well any line combination that they had did not stick together coming into this next year. Like, I can't say that for certain, but I mean, you lost a lot of key players. So
they also do have a decent coach coming in with Luke Richardson. So
yep,
I don't know if they're just going to be focusing on kind of like a Montreal style, like if they have young guys in the lineup, try to focus on them. But
yeah, and I've heard a lot of good things about Luke Richardson. I've heard I've heard that he is like a really good players coach and that he's going to be like good for the youth and the development of players. So I'm excited about that. I heard that on a podcast that I was listening to. So
I don't know if you remember the Canadiens run, but it was somewhere against Vegas. I don't know the exact games where Dom Ducharme was out with COVID.
Yeah.
And Luke Richardson was coaching them. They played their best games in the playoffs.
Wow.
So I don't know. I like the coach.
I've heard good things.
I'm just iffy on the locker room. I think Arizona will be fun this year. So yeah, I have Arizona 7 and Blackhawks 8. So that sums it up for the Central. Now this is where I think it gets even trickier, where we go into the Pacific, right?
Yep.
So I'm just gonna pull up some of the lineups here. So I think the first one's a giveaway. I think this one is a no-brainer, right? You have your Edmonton Oilers. I think McDavid's just gonna keep getting better. Best player in the league, right? And then Zach Hyman still got a good couple years left. They signed Evander Kane. Their second line's looking pretty decent with Hopkins, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto. I just think that the two-headed monster they have in Draisaitl, McDavid, they're just gonna blow past and be number one. Not too much else to say about that. They did get a little more insurance in goalie with Campbell, I guess you could say. Let's hope he doesn't have as bad as a season as he did last year. But with the Oilers defense, you never know.
Right? Yeah, you never know. He couldn't end up having a worse season, but I think you can't say that they didn't at least marginally improve in net.
No, they did. They did.
So you gotta look at that as a positive, and I think it's just kind of hard to put anybody else ahead of them.
No, exactly, especially in this division. So
yeah,
I think it was a giveaway. Not too much to say on that one, right?
Yep.
2, I think we were going with the Calgary Flames, actually. So the Flames fans have been through a roller coaster this offseason of just being so down bad to being optimistic again, right?
Yep.
I loved the way they bounced back, right? Like everybody thought after Gaudreau left immediately after Kachuk wanted to go, and everybody was like, oh no, like they have zero leverage. They have zero leverage. They're just going to get a couple of picks, right? And then
get a couple picks and then sell Lindholm and sell Monahan and just blow everything up. But instead they somehow managed to roll it into, we're still contending here. Like
exactly. They get a Hart nominee with Jonathan Huberdeau. They get a good defenseman with Mackenzie Weegar. They get a prospect in Cole Schwindt, and they get a first-round pick. That was an outstanding trade for Calgary. I actually think they win it. Especially because Huberdeau got the extension. Talks are in that Weegar is actually looking to resign as well. So if Weegar resigns, they blow away this trade just because they now actually have a window, right? And then they also add depth and down the middle. I think that was probably one of their biggest issues last year. When then they add an awesome Kadri and they push Backlund down. Backlund's a good defensive center, but I think Kadri on the second line, especially if he's playing with Mangiapane or Tyler Toffoli, they could actually put some work in.
Yeah.
Because Kadri's whole thing with like the Leafs, when in his career at the end of it, he was playing against the toughest competition because of all the kids on the team, right?
Yep.
But now he gets to sit in that second line role, match up against usually second, third line players, and just gets to put in work, right?
Yep. And he's got some guys beside him that, like you said, they're like Kadri's a dog, and so are those other guys. It's just with Kadri, we always have the question about, like playoffs and stuff, and is he going to play on that line? But I mean, he's a Stanley Cup champion now. He kind of silenced all those doubts. You know what I mean? So I'm
Exactly.
super excited about him going to Calgary, and super excited about them getting like Jonathan Huberdeau, a Hart Trophy candidate, and also getting Mackenzie Weegar just really bolsters their defense. And yeah, it's just, I think Calgary, like you said, they beautifully like executed a pretty shitty situation into probably winning the trade. Like right now, they've probably already won it, but it's like you slam dunk it with a Uyghur extension.
Oh, exactly. And Tyler Toffoli and Mangiapane could both just put the puck in the net, right? Gives Kadri options with either their young prospect Peltier on the wing, or they can have someone like another grinder type with
Like that's
Blake
what I mean.
Coleman.
That line, like if it's, imagine it's Kadri, Mangiapane, Coleman, or Kadri, Toffoli, whatever, right?
Yeah,
If that's the line, like that's not going to be a fun line to play against. If that's like that's my line I'm putting out against Austin Matthews, against those top
exactly.
forward lines, right? Like I want you to shut them down, and they would be pesky to play against.
And I also like they could have one of the best decors in the league right now. Because you got Hannafin, Rasmus Anderson, Uyghur, Chris Tanev, Zadorov, and Chillington. Like even that top six line is really good, right?
Good man.
It's and then
In net, you still got Markstrom.
Markstrom. He was a little shaky in the playoff. I'm hoping
Yeah,
he can return to form again because he was
but
atrocious.
like we just said, the defense might have got better, so it's like they're giving him even more help.
I think Daryl Sutter is the perfect coach for this team,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, I have them second. They could honestly contend with first, in my
Yeah,
opinion. But
yeah, we kind of discussed it. We kind of discussed it into making it more of a conversation than we had in our prep. But yeah, no, I like it a lot. So who do you got for number 3 here?
I'm probably gonna take some bullets here for this one because
Oh,
a lot of
I
people are
I might
just
have to distance myself from this take.
you might
I can't,
have to you
let's
might
hear
have
it.
because you don't want to catch any strays. So this is
No.
where this division I get really iffy on because there's teams that are good but they're not slam dunks for the playoffs. Like the first two teams are slam dunks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the rest
Oh,
of it,
agreed.
they're all kind of in the same category except for maybe the bottom two, but like 3 till 6 maybe is kind of in the same category. But I am gonna go with the Revenge Tour Vegas Golden Knights.
A
As
revenge tour.
Revenge Tour Vegas Golden Knights, they are
Mm-hmm.
pissed that they missed playoffs last year. The amount of injuries they had last year were just crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They missed so much play, like so players missed so much time and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. They had cap
But
issues as well at one point. Like,
exactly. They got worse as a team. They gave up Pacioretty and all that stuff, but I still think they have the pieces to make some runs at it, right? Like their first line. I think Eichel's gonna be fully healed, hopefully. I think he's gonna somewhat return back to form.
mm-hmm.
Then you got him with Mark Stone, who should hopefully be fully healthy, and then Chandler Stevenson. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Just based on their prior years, other than last year, they've been a very successful team since they've joined the league. I like their coach and Bruce Cassidy. I like that pickup. The other, like I said before, the only big question mark I have in this team is their goaltending, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they just traded for Aiden Hill, who I think can be a decent backup. So their starter is probably going to be Logan Thompson,
Yep. And
right?
Logan Thompson is an unexperienced, like he's played some NHL games, but it's not like they've ever had, has he had a number one load on him in the NHL for a long period of time? Like, nope.
Not a long period.
So it's a
He was the starter at the end of the year.
so to ask a playoff team to, like, you're asking a lot from this guy, but they also got Aiden Hill, who I think will be able to put in some quality spot starts. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind the pick at 3 just because, like you touched on, I think Bruce Cassidy is a really good coach. I don't know what's going on in Boston. Like, really, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. But I didn't think they should have fired Bruce Cassidy. I really like him as Vegas's new coach, and it's just they were so injury riddled. You got to assume that if Eichel can come in and put together 80-90% of Jack Eichel at his peak, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's still because like that would just be such a boost to the team. And yeah, I think them at 3 is not, it's not that bad. It's just it's just going to be all about those goalies, right? But some of these teams below, we're asking the same question about the goalies as well, at least a few of them. So, what do you think about number 4 here? Let's see if you rattle any more cages.
I think this one, I think people would want, if anything, they'd want this team in third.
Okay.
So I have LA, right? So I like LA. I like their young guys. And they also got a lot better with that Fiala trade, right?
Yep.
I think it's also another injury kind of team where they have a bunch of old players, but they still have the young guns. I think I think these 4 teams will make the playoffs.
Yep.
Where with the Wild, I wasn't sure, right? This is where I was talking about where the 2 wild card teams could be from this division.
Mm-hmm.
But I like LA. Kempe, Kopitar, Fiala is a great first line. Deneau for the shutdown line, right? And they have some good young talent as well, right? Their goalies they're okay. Peterson and Quick. I think Quick's on his last edges, but Peterson's pretty decent. I like their defense decent. Like I love Sean Durzi.
Yep.
Sean Durzi was really well. Mikey Anderson played pretty good with the Drew Doughty. So I think LA's a better team, a lot better team than they were last year, and they gave the Oilers a good fight.
Yep, they still made the playoffs last year, and they got better. So we gotta keep them in the playoffs.
Right.
I think a big thing that could propel them from, like you said, like some people might want them third. I think a big thing is if all those guys that you mentioned, like Kopitar, Kempe, if all these guys produce like we expect them to, and then they get Quinton Byfield to take that next step forward as well. Like if your 3 centers are Kopitar, Deneau, and Quinton Byfield, oof. But Quinton Byfield so far has been, he hasn't been like, I'm not saying he's like bust material, like we're not going there yet, but he's needing to take that next step to maybe get like into that 50-point range. I don't know. He's on the third line, so maybe I'm expecting a little too much. But
before we get into the 50-point range, he needs to play a full season, right?
Yeah, that's true.
He needs to be an NHL lock. Just like, work on the skills.
I'm talking as if he's like if he needs to play this year. Like if he doesn't, 100%. If he's AHL this year, then that's a huge red flag with a second overall pick.
Because he played 40 games last year, which isn't bad, but
that's not bad. But this year he has to play a full season. Like,
I think so.
And he has to, like, I'm not saying he has to get 50 points, but I'm saying like if you get like, if you're on the third line, you can produce 35 points with 15 goals and you play good shutdown defense. He's like what, 6'4", 6'5", like he's big boy. So
yeah, 6'5". So yeah, so we got LA at 4. So our number 5 pick, which I do think they also got better, the Vancouver Canucks. So I honestly, in my personal opinion, I think these 2 teams will beat out the Wild.
Yep.
So I think these 2 teams will be the ones to make the playoffs. I actually like the Canucks a lot.
Yep.
As soon as they did the coach change, right, where they got their new guy, they were a lot better. Brock Besser was a lot better.
You know his name? You know his name?
Bruce Boudreau, buddy.
Bruce, there it is.
Bruce, there it is. But no, I love their forward depth, right? I think let's see if Kuzmenko, their KHL edition.
Yeah, this is the big one. That's a big one.
If he can get power play time, he put up a good season in the KHL last year. They also added really good defensive forward in Ilya Mikheyev. Mm-hmm. Overpaid, however, but they added him.
Yep.
I love their depth. Paul Colson could take a step this year. Jason Dickinson's a pretty good depth forward. They just re-signed JT Miller, so the locker room should be all good. Their defense is a little questionable. That's why I have them lower than LA and Vegas. Mm-hmm. It's because their defense isn't the greatest. Like Quinn Hughes is an awesome offensive defenseman, kind of lacking on defense. And is he going to play with Myers? Is he going to play with Tucker Poolman, Luke Shen? Like it's just not any really world-breaking good defensive defensemen. Mm-hmm.
Like, and not a lot of great pairings that you can combine.
Exactly. If he didn't have left, the guy who went to Calgary, what was his name? Chris Tanev would have been the perfect pairing for Luke Hughes or Quinn Hughes. Sorry. So I love their forward depth. They have a great goalie in Thatcher Demko. I like Bruce Boudreau, but I'm just I have them low because I don't love their defense. Like defensively, they're not very good at all. But
I think I agree as well. I mean, yeah, they got Thatcher and net. It seems like them offensively, they seem like a much deeper team with Kuzmenko and Ilya Mikheyev. They seem like a lot more like offensive potential, which seemed to be their problem a lot last year, was just producing offense. But
I think they have good potential to throw like a shutdown line too, with like a Bo Horvat, Mikheyev, Connor Garland kind of lineup, right?
To ice a game or something.
Oh,
like,
exactly. They have a lot of combinations they can put together. I really like it, honestly.
Yeah. So I like them fifth, but only under the circumstance that it's like they're competing like with the Wild, if not beating the Wild. You know what I mean? As that there's two teams in the Pacific, which that could be. I don't know. Last year the Pacific was a little bit down bad.
Yeah.
So is the Central as well, though. The West has kind of gotten weaker over the last little bit.
I think they're coming up again though.
Yep, there are a lot of young teams as well.
I think the East is stronger. Like the West has like powerhouse teams. Obviously, like I think St. Louis is a powerhouse, Colorado, Oilers, Calgary, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall the East is better just with the depth. But
depth.
I'm confident in our East list on like the teams that are going to miss the playoffs. I think they will miss the playoffs.
Yeah,
but I'm
this side's a little harder.
I'm looking at the Pacific Division. I'm looking at the Central. I'm not sure, but this is just what I'm feeling at this moment.
I agree. I think so far it's, you know, it can go either way with who's making these wildcard teams, but I think our Eastern was pretty set in stone. But so who are we looking at here for number 6?
I think we got the Anaheim Ducks. Right. I don't know if they're gonna push for it this year, right? Because they got John Klingberg as a defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just someone to like, it could either be they want to try to go for it, maybe make the playoffs, or they might just be looking for more assets at the trade deadline. He was sitting there. They had the cap space. Maybe you could even teach Jamie Drysdale a couple things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're young, but they lost Sam Steele. Didn't play the greatest, but I think he still had potential. They lost Sonny Milano, who was really good with Trevor Zegras. So like they're kind of, I don't really know which way they're going. Maybe they're trying to get Bedard or a top 3 pick. I have them 6. I don't think they're much better other than the Klingberg thing.
And I think you kind of said it best there with them adding Klingberg. It kind of puts them in like a weird spot of which way they're going to go. If they're getting Klingberg to have a 1-year rental and try to be a good team, then I expect them to make more moves. But then they lose Sam Steele, they lose Sonny Milano. So it's kind of like, okay, leads me to believe that maybe Klingberg's going to be there, like you said, help Jamie Drysdale, and then kind of just be on auction for the rest of the league. And if we can get some more assets, and if that helps them maybe make a trade to get Bedard, because they just fell in love with Bedard and McTavish at the World Juniors. And Bedard, McTavish, Zegras is just, so I could see them going that route where it's like, Klingberg, you're here to help the young guys, teach these guys how to be pros, and then it's going to be time to ship you when a contending team comes calling. We'll retain half the salary because we can.
Yeah, boom. I think they will be a good offensive team, though. I think Zegras is going to take another step, especially if McTavish is playing with him.
Yeah,
like I think McTavish is my pick for Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do our early.
We'll get into that
early trophy picks later on, but I love McTavish as a player. I think he's really good 2-way forward as well. Saved Canada with that amazing stop. Got the offensive skills. All I'm just saying, I'm picturing in my head, they got Trevor Zegras, McTavish, Connor Bedard. They're just unstoppable, right?
Like,
so if I was them, that's the angle I'd be going for. Even a little Meech thing too. That could be a little thing too. But I think they should try to tank it for one more year, try to get one of those players, and then I think they're the best upcoming team in the league.
Yeah, we're very much in agreement of this, but I've told you before, I'm very much a secret closet Ducks fan. I really do like their team. I like all their youth, and I like the direction they're headed, but we'll see which way they go with it. And moving on to 7, this is kind of where it's, you know, it gets hard again. I think it gets hard again, bro. No,
I think it gets easy. Why do you think it gets hard?
Because who do you got?
I got Seattle.
See, for me, it's who's gonna be like Shane gonna be there?
I think so.
If Shane's gonna be there, it's not hard.
Because I'm just thinking, bro. They got Bjorkstrand for nothing from
That's
Columbus.
true.
That's
That's
a
true.
good player. They signed some depth guys. Like I could look at their
And well, they just need Beniers. They need Beniers up next year with Bjorkstrand, and then that's I think Beniers will be up, and then if they also have Shane, then it's clear cut. I agree with you then.
All right, they also got Andre Burakovsky from Colorado.
I low key forgot about that. Yeah, sorry, San Jose. This we might have to put you last here.
Justin Schultz from Washington. Like they added a couple good pieces, right?
Stanley Cup champion Michael Kempny from Washington.
There it is. If they have Shane Wright and Matty Beniers, I think Matty Beniers is a lock to play.
Matty Beniers is a lock.
I think they'll give Shane Wright a chance. Like I think they'll do like the 7-game trial with him, like almost like McTavish got.
Just play him with Beniers. Like play one of them on the wing, bro. Just do it.
No, I think their center depth is not the greatest, but you never know.
I don't care, bro. They're not going to be a good team anyway. Just let the kids go.
I don't know, but at that point, do you not want them to develop in their natural positions, right? Because that's what they were going for. They were going for the 1-2 punch down the middle. Pish
posh, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl sauce, bro. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
They do that only like sometimes, right? Where if they need to win, they're putting like sure do that, but I think
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could mix it up. Just mix it up. I want to see those two together. That's all I'm saying.
I'm excited to see Seattle this year. I think they're going to be a fun team. I just don't think they're going to be that great, right? But. And that obviously
leaves San Jose, which
is self-explanatory.
Didn't they get Joe Thornton back?
Did they?
I think so. I thought so.
No way.
Look that up, dude. Look that up. I could be wrong.
No way they got Joe Thornton.
Did he just retire? I know he left Florida. I could be wrong.
No, he hasn't signed.
Okay, he's just a free agent.
I was gonna say, did I miss something there?
But maybe it's a rumor or something I might have saw. I don't know. I hope he does go back.
I'm looking here. They picked up a couple depth pieces. Nothing really big. They lost Ryan Dzingel. They just lost basically depth players, right?
Yeah.
So like they're basically the same team. They weren't great last year. I think the teams around them are going to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
Seattle, Ducks, all that stuff, right? So I think they're trying to go into rebuild mode now. They're probably looking for Bedard as well.
They would like that a lot.
So I got the Sharks last. Is there anything you want to change on these lists?
I don't really think I have anything to change. The only one that is it's like it's gnawing at me is like that 3 slot of Vegas, LA, Vancouver. It bites at me, but I feel like we have it in the order that it's going to be but it's just Vegas kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth off of last year.
I feel
but it's just because of all the injuries, all the like chaos that was going around with that team. Just, we don't even have enough cap space to take guys off IR, blah, blah, blah. Right. So
they try to clear cap space. Trade gets denied. It's just
gets denied. Like, it's just like, there was just so much going on. So I feel like they're just leaving a bad taste in my mouth, and we got it in the right spot. They're 3rd, LA 4, Vancouver 5, but that's the one spot, you know.
All depends on their goalies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm pretty happy with this list.
Mm-hmm. That about wraps us up for the Tetro NHL podcast today. We went over the Western Conference, we gave our rankings, and we're going to be back with another episode coming soon. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, subscribe at Tetro Sports, follow us on TikTok at Tetro Sports, and on all platforms, Twitter, and coming soon to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us at Tetro Sports. All right, take care.